20 years ago today, I can relive that day like it was today, and the months that followed like they just passed yesterday. Today I want to share a story with you, a part of my journey, something that makes me who I am, and it is taking, I'm shaking, serious courage to share this journey with you and my story, but I want to do it in the hopes that it would inspire someone, to give someone hope and to give them strength. So bear with me, I'm going to try and keep my composure, but I can't guarantee that I will. So on June 14th, 1998, my best friend, it was her 14th birthday, she decided to get drunk and she fell off our dorm room roof. It was 40 foot. She tragically died. Now, the months that followed were some of the craziest months of my life. We went to one of the most prestigious boarding schools in the UK. Therefore, the press, the media, they were all after us for a story. We couldn't process the fact that one of our best friends had just died from such a tragic event. So we didn't talk to them. Therefore, they made up stories about us and turned us all into alcoholics, whether we'd drunk in our lives or not. And that alone was very hard to process. A couple more months passed. Some of my other friends turned to alcohol themselves. They turned to carrying the razor blades from pencil sharpeners around in their mouths, slitting their wrists and their legs and their tummies. Some of them turned to drugs. It was a very self-destructive time in our lives, and I made that decision then and there at 14 years of age that I was never going to drink because I did not want to lose another friend. I had stopped my best friend falling off the roof just 2 weeks before. We were the youngest in the boarding house, therefore we lived in the attic, and she was into drinking and she went out onto the roof. I managed to call her back. I was really scared to go out there myself because she kept telling me she was going to fly, and I kept telling her, you cannot fly, you have to come back inside, and I didn't want us both to fall. So just 2 weeks before, I'd saved her once already. So after the event happened and we lost her, I blamed myself for years and years. I should have been there. I could have saved her again. It's all my fault. And as a 14-year-old, that's really, really hard to process. We always, back then as well, 20 years ago, we used to write letters to each other. We used to write in our journals and little notebooks all the time. It was a fun thing to do. It was before phones. And, we used to write who our crushes were and things like that. And she had written me a note. And the note said, if I ever commit suicide, I will leave a note. If there is no note, it wasn't suicide. I always wondered if I had missed the note or whether that was the note. But it took me years and years to process that it was just a tragic accident and it was not my fault. Anyway, so going back to the events that followed, I decided not to drink alcohol. It was my choice then and there to be strong. I decided I was not going to do drugs. I decided I was not going to use self-harm as a way to get attention. I am not saying that the other people were wrong. Everyone processes tragedies in different ways. But I was so scared that if I was drunk, I would lose another friend. If I was there, I could be the one to save them. If I was drunk, I couldn't. And yes, growing up in a teen environment, 13, 14, 15, 16, that is really difficult not to do. Peer pressure is a very, very real thing. And so I had to be so strong to not give in to that peer pressure and stand by my decision that I was not going to drink and I was not going to do drugs. At first, it was because I didn't want to lose another friend. And then after that, I just saw how self-destructive drugs, alcohol, using self-harm could actually be. And, I was used. I would say, oh, she'll be the designated driver. She doesn't drink when we got to the age where we were driving. Or she's so boring, she doesn't drink. I still stood firm and stood by my decision. And I'm sharing all this with you today on her 20th anniversary and what would have been her 34th birthday. That you have the power, the single decision you make to completely shape your life. In that moment of decision, you can completely change the course of your life. I chose to be strong. I chose to be a person who knew what she wanted. I chose to surround myself with people who believed in themselves. I chose to be that person for other people. Another thing I had to fight with at the time was that there were two boarding houses together, and or side by side. They decided that they were going to join the boarding houses together. So they did some, like, you know, construction. And where she fell was actually the exit of the laundry room, so it was never used. When they joined the two boarding houses together, they made that the main entrance. So for the next 5 years, I had to walk over the very spot my best friend took her very last breath, and relive that every single day. You cannot believe the amount of movies that have people being thrown out of windows or falling off buildings. Just last night, in a movie that happened 20 years later, I cannot watch those things, and in anticipation, knowing it's going to happen in a movie, I have to close my eyes. I thought I'd be able to compose myself a little bit better than this. But my whole story is that you guys have that decision. You can make a decision in a split second, and honestly, that decision could change your entire life. And I urge you all to share this with your teenagers, with family members who may be struggling. You know, peer pressure is very real, and sorry guys, this is really unattractive, but you can share this with your family, because you never know who's struggling. You never know what people's stories are. So many people cannot share their story. They've got secrets inside them that they just cannot share. And I think the more open we are, the more we share our stories and our struggles, the more we can help people. Tragically, my little brother lost his best friend last year to suicide, and it literally in a split second took me back to this day 20 years ago. My heart absolutely broke for him, and it broke all over for myself again. So I really, really hope that in sharing this, you can share it with others and realize that, you know, you have a choice. Nothing has meaning except the meaning you give to it. Like, I like to refer back to a story I heard once where there were two brothers from an alcoholic family. They were twins, and the father was abusive. One of them decided that he wasn't going to let it rule his life. He went on to be very successful, CEO of his own company. The other brother, the twin brother, turned to a life of drugs and crime. So no matter what your circumstances, you are the one in control of how you react to it, the meaning you give to it, and the decision you make to how it is going to affect your life. Clearly you can see 20 years later it still affects me, and that's okay. Like, it's never going to go away, it's never going to hurt any less, but the meaning I gave to it was one to empower myself and not go down that path of self-destruction, and, you know, turn to all those things. And I don't care if people called me boring for not drinking. I don't care if people used me. Like, that was a journey and a chapter of my life that has made me the strong person that I am today. And I urge, like I said just now, please share this with as many people as possible, because you don't know who's hurting. You don't know who's suffering. And I just want to give them hope that they have the power, the mind, the mindset to just control how they go forward here. So I just want to say, Jen, I love you and I miss you. But I'm so grateful for the lessons that you have taught me, and it's all made me the person that I am today. Okay, bye guys.